What I noticed and what I knew in my heart was that I had always been a writer. I mean, I have a typewriter tattooed on my back. Hang on, there's a fucking chainsaw outside of my window.
It's time to make some room in your headspace. This is Words Matter with Amy Guth.
Isn't it funny how when someone who has made it really clear they don't want you to win, like at all, gives you unsolicited advice? And it's actually good advice, right? That's complicated because it's good advice and you didn't ask for it. And also it's from someone who has made a point to show you they do not want you to win. So you have to question their motivation. Like, is it that you just want to insert yourself because you need to feel important? Or is it that you actually just want to try to throw me off my game? You're just messing with me. Like you're fucking around playing head games. I don't know. I was just thinking that because it happened a couple of times in the last couple of weeks that I'm just like, what? Why would you waste your time when you've made it clear you just think I'm in your way? Anyway, hello. How's it going? I am still getting used to the idea that like every day the weather is in the 70s and sunny. That's a pretty good default answer about Los Angeles. The difference I'm learning is that in the evening, when the sun goes down, it cools off more, right? So in the summer, not really, maybe a little bit, those ocean breezes will come in. But in the evening and in the morning, it's a little chilly. So I feel like a dick about it, but I've actually turned the heater on a couple of times in the morning. I have a little rocking chair that sits by this little, it's more like a wall radiator, electric thing, right? But I've turned it on a couple times in the morning when it's like in the 50s, just because it's really chilly in the building that I'm staying in. And I felt like a jerk because it's very cold in Chicago and I'm used to that, right? I'm wired. I've kind of gotten used to, my wiring has gotten used to being in that kind of weather and that kind of environment. But then by midday, by like 2 in the afternoon, I've got the AC on. It's just a funny kind of whiplash thing with temperature. And I'm just saying that that's what winter's like so far here in the Los Angeles. So I want to talk about food writing because I don't think a lot of people maybe know about me is that I used to work as a chef. I'm from a restaurant family and that was just kind of the obvious career path. I was obsessed about writing about food, but I worked in the kitchen, both at the place that my dad ran and then the competitor, cringe face. Not cringing for the competitor, but like it sounds like it was more scandalous than it was, but in fact he and the competitor were friendly. It was fine. And then I worked in some places in New York after I left the nest and all that, and it was a great day job actually. And I was like good but not great at it. It was clear I was not going to be a world-renowned chef, which does not mean at all that I shouldn't do it if that's where my joy was. But what I noticed and what I knew in my heart was that I had always been a writer. I mean, I have a typewriter tattooed on my back that my dad gave me when I was a kid. I mean, I always say my parents gave it to me, but I just remember my dad like sitting down and teaching me how to do it and how to type and what to do with that typewriter and showing me the paper and all those things. So I was always a writer and I always dreamed of working in newspaper and broadcast and all of those things and working in Hollywood. It's funny, like like hybrid careers were never present to me. I mean, frankly, like as a woman, as a girl, very few careers were present to me and represented to me. I knew a lot of teachers, they were women. I knew a few broadcasters, but they were blonde and didn't look like me. And so that just wasn't the environment I grew up in, that women needed to make a lot of choices like that. But I had that passion in me and I wanted that. But I also had a great passion around cooking and kitchens and all that. So I did that and I did that work a lot and then moved to the front of the house and was waiting tables and that kind of thing and moved back to the back of the house again before hanging up my apron officially. And, look, it is a hard job to work in a restaurant. It really is. It's hard work and you hit it hard and then you're done, right? It's like a big adrenaline rush when that dinner rush hits, when it's time for dinner service, and then it's over. But you learn a lot. And there's a lot of beauty and grace in restaurants. And there's something I've always thought that was just remarkable and beautiful about the sensual pleasures of food. And my favorite smell in the world is also my favorite sound. And that is, I call it restaurant smell and restaurant sound. And it was when I was little, I would kind of hang out at the place that my dad was running. And I was too little to be useful. And so I would just kind of peek around the corner. And it was like a dark paneled room, and there were candles. And so you can kind of smell the candle wax. You smell food and kind of, garlicky, that cooked garlic smell, and delicious food. And you smell wine, and you smell people wearing fancy perfume and cologne. And there's often at the place that my dad ran, there was often like a little jazz trio or a piano player or something. So kind of soft background music that felt very soothing and timeless and beautiful. And that thing, it's neither smell nor sound, it's both, and a sensation. It's a lot of things all wrapped up in one, right? That's my favorite, like, cozy thing. That's so soothing to me to think of that. And so I bring that up because, there's so much pressure to be one thing in the world, and I have an op-ed in me brewing about that. The last news hook that was very legible to me was when the war in Ukraine broke out. Everybody was like, Zelensky used to be a comedian. How could he have been? Like, yeah, people can be more than one thing.
Peace in your country doesn't depend anymore only on you and your people. It depends on those next to you, on those who are strong.
In fact, I would argue that some of the greatest minds of all time have been more than one thing, right? Think about the great thinkers of the ages. Most of them have been more than one thing. Which is not to say I'm a great thinker of the ages, only that I think it's very limiting. And it's obvious under capitalism why we do that, right? There's economic incentive for us to be specialists, for us to do one thing and to do it as efficiently and well as possible. And that's not untrue. There is economic incentive. There's data there. But also, I'm less worried about the economics of it and more concerned about the humanity of it. And the humanity of it is that you can be more than one thing, and you can be more than one thing well. So a thing people have said to me a lot is like, they'll look at my CV and kind of go like, oh, it took you a while to find yourself. I'm like,
Ibra, make sandwiches. Don't stop making fucking sandwiches.
Thanks so much for tuning in. You can keep in touch by subscribing to my newsletter, which is an occasional email roundup of 5 things to read, watch, and listen to by heading to amyguth.com, or you can get my daily writing prompt at guth.substack.com. And finally, I'm at Amy Guth on all the socials.
I'm gonna make 3 sections, okay? They're gonna be wet, hot, and sweet.
Across the microphone is a writer who might be described as a quintuple threat: short stories, poetry, drama criticism, literary criticism, and certainly a most perceptive observer of the human comedy. Yet Dorothy Parker is a writer of profound compassion. She likes far more people than she dislikes. Now, is that a pretty fair appraisal, Mrs. Parker?
Oh, it's much too fair. I thought you were talking about somebody else.